The morning rain tapped gently on the window pane of Amelia's bakery, a small corner shop nestled in a quiet suburban street. Inside, the smell of fresh bread and cinnamon rolls wrapped the air in warmth and nostalgia. Behind the counter, Amelia Reed, 30 years old, moved with practiced grace, dusting flour from her hands as she arranged pastries in the glass case. 4 years ago, Amelia's life had looked very different. She was a rising star in the tech world, a gifted programmer at a prestigious firm in downtown San Francisco. Her work on API frameworks and synchronization protocols had made her name whispered in engineering circles. But all that ended the day her younger sister, Lily, was struck by a car. The accident left Lily with a long road to recovery, and without hesitation, Amelia left it all: her high-rise apartment, lucrative stock options, and the adrenaline rush of debugging systems at 2 a.m. to return home and care for her only family. Now, Amelia ran this bakery, rising before dawn to knead dough and greet customers with a gentle smile. The bakery had become her refuge, a simpler, quieter life, far from the breakneck pace of Silicon Valley. Yet, despite the peaceful rhythm of mixing batters and brewing coffee, there were moments when her fingers itched for a keyboard instead of a rolling pin. That morning, as she arranged croissants on a tray, the door swung open with a soft chime. A tall man in a tailored suit stepped inside, shaking rain from his overcoat. His sharp features were creased with stress, and a Bluetooth headset blinked faintly at his ear. Two other men followed him, similarly dressed, carrying laptops that looked comically out of place amid the rustic charm of the bakery. Amelia watched as they took the corner table, immediately opening their laptops and speaking in hushed, urgent tones. Words like API leak, race condition, and thread lock drifted across the room, language that once would have been as familiar to Amelia as the scent of freshly baked bread. Curiosity stirred inside her, but she pushed it aside, walking over with her notepad. "Good morning," she said softly. "What can I get you folks today?" The suited man barely looked up. "Just coffee, black, all around, thanks." Amelia nodded, moving to the counter to fill their cups, but her ears caught snippets of their conversation. "The sync module is failing again," one of them muttered. "We're dead if we don't fix this before noon. The investors are landing in 3 hours." Amelia froze mid-pour. Her heart picked up pace. She recognized the jargon and the panic behind it. These men weren't just casual business travelers. They were deep in a technical crisis. She brought the coffee to their table, setting the cups down gently. The tall man, clearly their leader, rubbed his temples and muttered something about NovaCore crashing under load. It clicked in her mind. NovaMind AI. She'd read about them on tech blogs late at night when she couldn't sleep. They were developing cutting-edge AI logistics software that promised to revolutionize global supply chains, and they were on the verge of collapse. She couldn't help herself. As she placed the last cup, she spoke, her voice tentative but clear. "Excuse me. I couldn't help but overhear. Are you running a multi-threaded system with shared buffers?" The three men stopped talking. Their leader looked up at her for the first time, eyes narrowing with both suspicion and surprise. "I'm sorry, who are you?" he asked bluntly. "Amelia," she replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "I used to work in tech, and it sounds like you might be dealing with a race condition or a deadlock." One of the engineers blinked. "How would you know that?" Amelia shrugged. "Just a hunch. But if you're using an older synchronization protocol without proper mutex handling, it can lock up when under heavy load." The leader exchanged a glance with his team, then turned back to her. "We're NovaMind AI. I'm Richard Hale, CEO, and we're out of options. Our system is crashing during critical data syncs, and we have a $200 million investment hanging on a demo in a few hours. Amelia hesitated, wiping her flour-dusted hands on her apron. Her heart was pounding. You could show me the logs, she said quietly. It was an absurd suggestion. She was just a baker now, after all. But something about the desperation in Richard's expression told her he was willing to try anything. Fine, he said, motioning to one of his engineers to turn the laptop toward her. As she pulled up a chair, the familiar sight of debug logs filled her vision. Lines of errors, stack traces, and memory dumps that would overwhelm most people. But to Amelia, it was like slipping into an old rhythm. Her mind began sorting through the chaos automatically, her fingers itching to type a solution she hadn't even formulated yet. The smell of coffee and bread faded into the background. The bakery around her disappeared. Amelia Reed, baker, caregiver, and former programmer, was back in her element, if only for a moment, and she was about to change everything. Amelia sat at the corner table, flour still dusting her apron, but her mind already deep in the lines of code scrolling past on Richard's laptop. The debug logs revealed a familiar pattern: excessive thread contention, incomplete lock releases, memory buffers left hanging in limbo. Her instincts kicked in. You're running a legacy mutex implementation inside a nested sync call, she murmured, mostly to herself. No wonder it's hanging under load. Richard leaned in, his frustration still evident but hope flickering in his eyes. Can you fix it? He asked, his voice low but urgent. Amelia took a breath, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I can't promise, but I know where to look. The engineers, tired, desperate, skeptical, slid the laptop over to her. She cracked her knuckles, then hesitated. It had been 4 years since she'd touched production code. But her fingers found the keys naturally, muscle memory guiding her back into a world she thought she'd left behind. As she navigated the codebase, her mind worked quickly. This wasn't just about deadlocks. It was about trust. Trust that she still had it. Trust that her skills hadn't dulled with time spent behind a bakery counter instead of a workstation. Minutes passed in tense silence, broken only by the clatter of keys and occasional murmurs from Richard's team. Customers filtered in and out of the bakery, oblivious to the quiet drama unfolding in the corner booth. Then Amelia stopped typing. She pointed to a specific block of code. Here, this section, your locking mechanism is flawed. You're acquiring mutexes out of order in nested threads. Under load, it's causing a circular wait condition. She began rewriting the block carefully, inserting proper ordering logic, adding fallback checks, and updating the buffer sync algorithm. She even left comments in the code. Clear, concise, thoughtful. 25 minutes later, she leaned back. Okay. I've patched the sync handler and adjusted the memory buffer locks. You'll need to restart the sync service and test the load handling. Richard gave a nod to his engineer, who tapped a few keys, holding his breath as the system rebooted. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the error indicators on the dashboard cleared. Green lights spread across the status panels like dawn breaking after a storm. The system was back online, stable, ready. The Novamind team exchanged stunned glances. Richard let out a long breath he'd been holding for what felt like hours. It's working, he whispered, then louder. It's working! His lead engineer looked at Amelia like she was a magician. You just fixed in under half an hour what we couldn't solve in 2 days. Amelia felt warmth rush to her cheeks, a mix of pride and disbelief. I recognized the pattern. I ran into a similar issue years ago, on an API framework for autonomous vehicle routing. Richard stood abruptly, extending his hand. You just saved Novamind. Without this system, today's investor demo would have failed. This deal would have died. He paused, his voice sincere, almost pleading. Come work for me. Amelia's heart jumped. But just as quickly, reality set back in. I can't, she said softly. I have my sister. I run this place. I can't just leave all that behind. Richard wasn't ready to give up. Name your terms, he said quickly. Remote work, flexible hours, anything you need. I've built my company on hiring the best, and you're the best I've seen. Amelia smiled faintly, touched by the offer but torn by responsibility. Thank you, she said honestly, but my place is here. For now. Richard nodded slowly, reluctantly accepting her decision. But know this, my door is always open, anytime you're ready. The team gathered their laptops, offering her one last round of grateful thanks before hurrying out the door. No doubt racing back to prepare for the critical investor presentation that would determine Novamind's future. The bell above the bakery door jingled as they left, and for a long moment Amelia stood still, staring at the empty table where just minutes earlier she had stepped back into the world she once ruled. She had done it! In less than an hour, Amelia Reed, baker, caregiver, had saved a $200 million deal. Yet as she returned behind the counter, her heart felt heavy. A part of her had come alive again. The coder, the solver, the innovator. Could she really bury that part forever? That evening, after closing the bakery, Amelia sat at the tiny kitchen table in the apartment above the shop. Across from her, Lily smiled gently, sipping tea. Her recovery had progressed well, stronger now, laughing more, but still needing Amelia nearby. "You're thinking about it, aren't you?" Lily asked softly, as if reading her mind. Amelia didn't answer right away, but finally whispered, "Yeah, I am." For the next few days, Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that something inside her had shifted. When she served coffee to customers or kneaded dough before dawn, her mind wandered, not to baking techniques or new recipes, but to race conditions, memory leaks, and optimization patterns. Late at night, after Lily went to bed, Amelia sat at her old, half-broken laptop, fingers dancing across the keyboard. She couldn't help herself. She dove into open-source projects she once contributed to, catching bugs and submitting pull requests under a pseudonym she thought no one would recognize. But Richard hadn't forgotten her. On Friday afternoon, as Amelia was frosting cupcakes, the bakery door swung open, and there he was again. Richard Hale, looking far less stressed this time, wearing a slight smile that seemed almost out of place on his usually serious face. He didn't order coffee. Instead, he handed her a small envelope. Inside was a letter and a diagram. "I've been thinking," Richard said, leaning casually against the counter. "You said you couldn't leave this bakery, and I get that. So I'm bringing Novamind to you." Amelia blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" Richard gestured to the diagram in her hands. A plan to outfit the bakery's back room as a fully remote-capable development studio. Secure network, cloud terminals, on-demand engineering resources. You could lead our cybersecurity division right from here. Full flexibility, your hours, your pace. He paused, then added with a grin, "You can still sell cinnamon rolls during the day if you want." Amelia sat down, overwhelmed. This was more than she ever expected. A way to return to her passion without abandoning her sister or her new life. "Richard, are you serious?" she asked, her voice soft. "Dead serious," he replied. "You didn't just fix a bug that day, you saved my company, and frankly, you're wasted behind this counter." That night, Amelia talked to Lily. Over warm tea, Lily squeezed her hand gently and said, "You can do this, Amelia. You don't have to choose between me and your dreams. We can make it work together." The next morning, Amelia called Richard. Her voice was steady, determined. "I'm in, but on my terms." "Done," Richard said instantly. "Welcome back." In the weeks that followed, the back room of Amelia's bakery transformed into one of the most unconventional engineering hubs in Silicon Valley. Among racks of flour and sugar, a sleek workstation now hummed with activity. Novamind engineers video called her daily, collaborating on code reviews, penetration tests, and architecture decisions, all while the smell of fresh bread lingered in the air. Word spread fast. Tech blogs called it the baker's algorithm, a poetic headline for the coder who saved an AI empire from collapse while wearing a flour-stained apron. Young developers from non-traditional backgrounds reached out to Amelia, asking for mentorship. Journalists wrote features about NovaMind's newest remote office, a bakery that smelled like innovation and sourdough at the same time. Amelia didn't seek fame. She kept her work steady, deliberate, and excellent. Under her leadership, NovaMind systems became some of the most secure in the industry. Her innovations reduced API latency by 30% and introduced a dynamic firewall that adapted to evolving cyber threats in real time, protecting not just NovaMind but several of their key logistics clients worldwide. 6 months later, NovaMind's valuations soared. Investors praised the company's resilience and adaptability, but behind closed doors, everyone knew it was Amelia who made it happen. Richard made sure she received full credit, both internally and externally. More importantly, he learned from her humility and pragmatism. He launched an internship program aimed at discovering talent outside of the traditional resume pipeline. Community colleges, career changers, single parents, all inspired by Amelia's story. 1 year to the day after she first fixed that critical bug, NovaMind invited Amelia to speak at their global summit. Standing on a stage in front of hundreds of engineers and executives, Amelia spoke with quiet confidence. She told them about her journey, not as a prodigy or a genius, but as a sister, a baker, and a coder who never truly stopped being one. "It doesn't matter where you are today," she said, "or what apron you're wearing. If you have the passion, the skills, and the heart, there's always a way back." The audience rose in a standing ovation. In the front row, Lily beamed with pride. Afterward, as the event wound down, Richard approached Amelia. "You've changed how I think about talent," he admitted. "You've changed me." Amelia smiled warmly. "You didn't just give me a second chance," she said. "You reminded me that we can write our own algorithms, for life too." That evening, Amelia returned to her bakery. The neon sign flickered softly in the twilight. She tied on her apron, served the last customer of the day, then slipped into the back room where a secure terminal glowed softly. There, among the scent of fresh bread and the quiet hum of servers, Amelia Reed had found the perfect balance. Coder and baker, innovator and sister. And she knew, with certainty, that she was exactly where she was meant to be.